between Meridian and Muddy River in 18U girls basketball, but Meridian able to come up with the win, their second conference win of the year. Both of them have been against the Counselors. 18U boys, the Counselors win again, remaining undefeated in conference with a 71-49 win, a game in which Meridian was able to score the ball, put the ball in the bucket a good amount as well. So it was a good game there. Scott County Flames and Jackson Victors played on the same night, a two-game slate, 14U boys and 16U boys. Jackson able to win the 14U boys matchup 34-19. They improved to 7-0 on the season in 14U with that win, and 16U Jackson able to cruise to a 40-8 win over the Scott County Flames in that one. Tupelo and Laurel. And as far as the conference games concerned, we had 14U boys action. Laurel able to get that win 34-23. Then PCA and Muddy River took each other on Saturday. That was MSAHA Game of the Week, a rematch from the matchup from earlier. It was a three-game slate. 16U boys, a win for the Muddy River Counselors, 56-48. PCA giving the Counselors a pretty good run for their money in that ball game, but the Counselors able to pull away with an 8-point win, 56-48. 18U girls, PCA able to get the win 36-33, but in surprising fashion, it was close. The first time PCA was able to win by about 17 points. This time get the win by 3 on the road. They squeaked by 18U boys. Counselors able to win again, making it 63-42. This time they won by over 20 points after having a 5-point win the first time. Then PCA again took the floor again at home, taking on Meridian for a 3-game slate. 16U boys, PCA defeating Meridian 28-21, a close battle there. And we got Coach Coker joining us later on. We'll ask him a little bit about that as well. 18U girls, PCA able to get the win 29-24. So we've seen a lot of these tight games here in this 18U girls field. So it should be interesting. That was a 29-24 win for PCA. 18U boys, PCA able to get the win by over 50 points in the 18U game, 78-21. They were looking to avenge their loss to the Muddy River Counselors on Saturday, and they were able to do so with a win by a large margin there. Hattiesburg and Muddy River played on that Monday night as well. A 3-game slate. 16U boys, Counselors win by 33, 68-35. 18U girls, Counselors able to get their first conference win and first overall win of the season with a win over Hattiesburg 33-25, which was a shocker because Hattiesburg taking their first conference loss of the season in that one. They are now 4-1 in conference heading in to Thursday's game, and we'll talk about tomorrow's game later on. 18U boys, Counselors able to win by 27 points, 77-50, and that really solidified the Counselors' lead on the conference right there. But then again, they took on the Jackson Victors the next day, which was last night. They had a 3-game slate, 14U boys, 16U boys, 18U boys, and 14U. This was a battle of undefeated teams between the Jackson Victors and the Muddy River Counselors. The Jackson Victors going into the game were 4-0 in conference, 7-0 overall, and the Muddy River Counselors were 3-0 both overall and in conference. The Muddy River, but it was close in the first quarter, an 11-10 advantage for the Counselors after one, but the rest of the game was all Counselors. 46-31 was the final score. The Counselors able to get the win and take a good stronghold as the number 1 seed in the 14U boys division. The Jackson Victors look pretty good, though, as a 14U squad. You can see why they are 7-0, and these two teams will play again on January 9th. 16U boys, Counselors able to win 51-25 in that matchup. The Counselors have not lost a 16U boys game since February 5th of 2022, so their streak continues. Their streak is up to 20 games in a row now. 18U boys, the Counselors able to win by over 50 points, 94-40, setting the single game scoring record as a team, 94-40 in that game. So Michael Williams able to finish with a triple-double for the Counselors, and Caleb Sanders finishing with 31 points. And so the Counselors really, as a whole team, just played extremely well in that ball game. And that right there made them 9-0 in conference play and able to solidify the number 1 seed in the 18U boys field. So those are last week's games. We had a lot of them last week for sure. Next week's games we have, and we're about to come into Christmas break. This is the last show of 2023. We will not have a show next week, and we'll get started back in January. So next week's games, we got Laurel and Hattiesburg, which is tomorrow night. We'll talk about that in just a second. Meridian and Jackson, that will be in Ridgeland, the Meridian Flyers and the Jackson Victors. You got some 14U, 16U, 18U should be there, unless it's just 16U and 18U. We'll have to check in on that. Tupelo taking on Scott County and Harpersville. PCA taking on Jackson and Ridgeland on Saturday, and then Laurel and PCA taking on each other. A classic matchup between Laurel and PCA. Laurel and PCA should be interesting, especially in the 18U girls field, as Laurel is undefeated, but they were able to beat PCA by a good bit the first time, but that'll be interesting to see the second time. But tomorrow night is the MSAHA game of the week, the Laurel Nighthawks, and can be you'll be notified when that stream begins, but we do plan on starting the stream at about 6 o'clock, so please be sure to join you boys and 18U girls, as you got the top 2 seeds in both girls and boys. Well, in boys you don't have the top 2 seeds, you have the 3, you have the big game, and between that Laurel and Hattiesburg matchup there. So we'll talk about that a little bit with Charlie, and we're going to bring Charlie Cotton on, but I do want to remind you again, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Also, be sure to check out the website, tsjwnetwork.net. That is the TSJ Network website. That's where you can find all the information, all the valuable information that you want to see is right there. So, folks, we right now will go ahead and bring on our contributor, Charlie Cotton, to talk about his new column. He wrote a new column this week. His column is called Laurel and Hattiesburg Crosstown Arrivals, which is very interesting because just last night we had the Jackson Victors and the Muddy River Counselors taking each other on. And in that ball game, that's actually a crosstown rivalry. You're talking about both teams residing in the Jackson area. But if you think about it, Laurel and Hattiesburg not very far from each other at all. So we've got Charlie Cotton joining us. Charlie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely. We appreciate you joining us every week and also being very consistent with his column of the week. Charlie's definitely been very good with that. So, Charlie, let's start with the girls' game. This is a matchup of the top 2 seeds. Laurel is undefeated in conference, and Hattiesburg was undefeated until the loss to Muddy River. And you have a couple players out in that game against Muddy River there for Hattiesburg. But, Muddy River able to put together a good game. But really, this is more about like Hattiesburg being able to bounce back from that, because that's a loss you didn't expect to have if you're Hattiesburg. But now you got to get shaped up to play the number 1 team. Okay, I think we're back on.
You back?
Were you able to? Yes, I'm back. All right. So, were you able to hear the question?
Yeah, I heard the question.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, Laurel Nighthawks, tough team in the girls division. I mean, they've been playing together for a long time. I mean, they're beating teams like LCS. Clearly, they've staked their claim in the girls conference, like girls competition and all that. Our girls, like you said, we had a game against Muddy River the other night. We had some players out. We don't have Catherine, and we don't have my sister, Emma Cotton, who was out sick. So, I mean, that's a tough loss to take. We didn't expect to take that loss, but, I mean, we went out there and we tried our best, and we did what we had with the resources that we had that game. It was a tough fought game. It was a 2-point game. Like, I'm not going to say that we're going to come out here and beat Laurel because, we lost LCS, and Laurel, they beat LCS. I mean, that's tough. But I know that we're going to go out there and we're going to do our best against any of these teams. And there's always that possibility. There's always hope to get that win. Now, in this scenario, it is a pretty small percentage. But I know that we're going to go out there. The girls are going to go out there and do what they're told and try their best to play against this tough Laurel team. And we're going to try to grow with it. Laurel, they have seniors and all that, and we have a couple seniors as well. But a lot of our girls are younger, and so if we continue to play these teams like Laurel, and I know I've mentioned this in other past episodes, if we continue to play these teams like Laurel at that potential year after year after year after year, eventually we will be at that Laurel potential if we continue to grow and learn game after game. And that's really what we're going to try to do after this is, we're going to take this game, do what we can with it, and learn from it, allow it to expose some of our weaknesses, and continue to grow after these tough matchups.
So the boys' game is a big one as well as you guys take on the Laurel Nighthawks. The Hattiesburg Forerunners lost to Muddy River twice now. They've not played PCA yet, so that'll be interesting. That'll be the second half of the season will be really big in looking at those matchups. You play PCA twice in a row to really see who the number 2 seed would be because we don't really know at the moment right now. But this is a very good opportunity for Hattiesburg to be able to show their muscles and show why they are the number 2 seed in this matchup with Laurel. Laurel has some bigs. They don't have as much beef as Hattiesburg has, but they do have some bigs, and they also have a good point guard in Ethan Beach as well. So just you're on that Hattiesburg team. You're a big part of it. Just preview that game for us.
Yeah, so like I said, we're not both in Hattiesburg. Obviously, they're in Laurel. But it's always felt like that. We've always kind of had that crosstown matchup kind of rivalry with Laurel. And we're going to go out there, and it's going to be tough. I feel like every time we play them, it's a tough, scrappy kind of game. When we go to their court, it's hard to get wins at their court. They have a good crowd. They come to our court. It's a hard crowd to play, and we have a good crowd.
Yeah.
And this time they're coming to our court. So we're going to go out there, and we're going to do what we do best. I know we have a pretty balanced team, and I've said this before. We have a lot of bigs who can do good down low. We also have some outside shooters, myself, Peyton, and Keller. We can all hit outside from 3. But Braden and Michael can also do that as well, which is always really good when you have big guys who can do really good down low. But then you also have big guys who can also hit from outside. Laurel, they have that as well. They're pretty balanced as well. They have Brock, who did fairly well against y'all. He had 18 points. Yeah. I mean, if you can do that against, the top team in the conference, you pretty much can do that against pretty much any other team in the conference. So we're going to definitely have to play good defense on him. They also have guys like Landon Hollingsworth, and they have guys like Ethan Beach at point. I know they can hit some threes from outside as well. So I mean, yeah, we're just going to have to play good defense. They're going to have to play good defense on us to play, guard us outside from 3, because I feel like we're both pretty streaky teams. And if they can guard that and we can guard them, it's just going to be a tough game. It's going to be an entertaining game to watch, and I feel like it's going to be a scrappy game. And I know last season we had a couple scrappy games. Obviously, we had that game winner from Keller a long time ago. It feels like a long time ago. And then last year we had a tough game. I know you were streaming for this one. It was like a 1-point game in varsity. And I mean, just historically, we've had a lot of good matchups, and I don't think this one will be any different.
Yes, we were there last year. It was on MSAHA primetime. It was a 46-43 win for Hattiesburg. And we plan on being back there tomorrow night as well. Lord willing, we will be streaming right there from First Presbyterian Church in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, bringing you that ball game. Ollie Hammonds will be joining us as well. So definitely looking forward to seeing that matchup. And it's also going to be interesting given the fact that Braden Dry used to play for Laurel, and now he transferred over to Hattiesburg, so it should be a very interesting atmosphere there. But Charlie, we appreciate you joining us as always, and a great column as well.
Thank you, man. Just thank you for having me.
For sure. So that was Charlie Cotton right there. And I do want to remind you, if you subscribe and turn the notifications on, you will be notified when we go live. And that will, Lord willing, be tomorrow. But we've got many more live streams coming down the pike. And we've got this show every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Of course, we will be back in January, the first week of January, whatever Wednesday that is. I think it's January 3rd. I'm not very sure about that. I do believe it is January 3rd. We'll be back, Lord willing, right here with the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. So now I want to bring on Megan Robinson. She will join us. She is the originator of the Tupelo Titans, who are a member of this MSAHA conference. And they this year have been competing in 14U and 16U. coming around, and so she is joining us right now. Megan, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
For sure. And so you started the Tupelo Titans a few years back and joined the MSAHA in 2021. Just speak to how the Titans have grown and developed, because you guys do more than just basketball. You've got, I know you've got volleyball. I know volleyball is a big thing as well. Just kind of talk about how the Titans have developed.
Well, we started out, we had a lot more sports than what we have right now. We had soccer on top of that, too. We had soccer, basketball,
Yeah.
and cheer. But our first year, literally, I coached every sport.
Yeah.
But now I feel like we've come back some, and we're focusing on the quality, not the quantity of the, how many sports can we get, but we want
Yeah. That's
to
it.
quality of what we have, and not stretch me so thin. We've grown by taking on staff, having parents step up and coach, that are like-minded. We focus
Yeah.
on coaching up, not coaching down, and building character.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you feel? So this year, you're competing in 14U boys, and you also have a 16U boys team as well. How do you feel the guys are developing over the course of the season thus far? Because you've had some successes, you had some wins, some losses. Just kind of talk about how you think the guys have developed under Coach Young.
Yes, it's amazing to watch them play now. When we first started out, everybody with homeschoolers, you don't know each other. You're not in the classroom every day. You're scattered about, and we're all over North Mississippi up here, Northeast Mississippi. So, several are driving an hour away to come to practices, and some are right here in Tupelo.
Yeah.
So, I think just having the time to develop those friendships, relationships on and off the court has really helped the boys come together and play more as a team. And I feel like John has really, like I said earlier, focused on character and challenging the boys, to give their best in everything they do, to honor the Lord on and off the court, and to be there for one another. They've been able to focus, and build that
Yeah.
chemistry on the court. They're just it's been amazing to watch them this year. They've come such a long way. The balance is just really, really good right now.
Awesome. What have been some of the biggest? It's kind of going back to talking about running the organization, starting and running the organization. You mentioned how you've been focused more on the quality than the quantity when it comes to amount of sports and things
Right.
like that. Just kind of talk about what are some of the biggest challenges in starting and running an organization like this?
I think the biggest challenges are going to be, not wearing yourself thin, and
Yeah.
starting something. Don't feel like you've got to do it all, immediately. I think, that'll help a lot if you just take a little bit at a time, and develop a little bit at a time and do it well, do it professionally. I think, just don't wear yourself thin, and trust the Lord
Yeah.
with all open hands.
Yes. Absolutely. So, what would you say is the end goal for this squad? Because I know that you guys make a yearly trip there to that district tournament in
Yeah.
Monroe, Louisiana. I assume that is the plan for this year. Just kind of talk about what the end goal for this season is for these guys.
The end goal this season is just, giving everything they've got and playing with integrity, conquering their emotions, their fears, their doubt, on the court there, not letting things get them down, bad calls or a shot you miss, just let that go and immediately continue to play the best of your ability with integrity and perseverance. We want them to finish strong and finish with their heads held high.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Megan, for joining us on this interview on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show.
All right. Thanks, Trellis. Bye.
Absolutely. So we now have another interview. We have with the head boys basketball coach there for the Scott County Flames. We've got a 16U boys team and a 14U boys team, and we got the head coach, Coach Chris Jones of the Scott County Flames. And so, Coach, thank you for joining us. First of all.
No problem. Thank you for having me, Trellis.
Absolutely. So this is the first year for Scott County since Coach Andy Bowles, who originated the Flames, stepped down as coach. Just kind of speak about your role in stepping up and taking the mantle there as the head coach of this team that has existed for 13 years with the same guy at the helm, and then now you've had to take it over.
It's been an adventure so far. As you said, Andy had been doing this for 13 years or so, and really last year was really my first year of being really involved in the team because I was helping him coach the 14U team, and I had never really paid attention to basketball until my son started playing about 3 years ago. It's been an adventure for me, to say the least. And
Absolutely. Good.
No, my goal is for the team is to keep it a Christian atmosphere and just continue the legacy that Brother Andy had started.
Absolutely. And so this year, and just kind of how you're talking, this year's been a development year for your team. Last year, you were coaching those 14U guys, and a lot of the guys that are playing now are from that 14U team. And so these guys are trying to develop over the course of a few years here, but you have a young team. So that is a positive there. So just kind of talk about the journey in trying to achieve this development.
Well, you said this, I had them, a lot of the boys last year. I just want to continue to get them to work together. As like right now, basically our 14U team is our 16U team also, because we lost Cole Mitchell earlier in the year, which we had planned on playing 18U, and trying to find a new person to take the lead on the court, on the court general. Is continue to get those kids to work together without having a leader out there with them on the court. And that was a huge loss that we took when Cole went down with the knee injury.
Yep. So yeah, I know that was a big thing too. But he did. I wanted to commend him for sure for being able to push through that, because he played some games after his torn ACL, and then he ended up undergoing surgery, and so he really fought through to the end there. So definitely to commend him on that. So in a season like this, you make short-term goals. I know that you're probably making some short-term goals for your guys. What kind of short-term goals do you set for these guys?
The main thing I try to focus on with them since they are so young is, to never quit, never give up, continue to play through the entire game until that last buzzer goes off. And, the teamwork, that's the main focus on it. You can't win basketball games with one or two players. It takes the entire team to work together on it.
For sure. Coach, so last question. What are kind of some of your end goals for this team this season?
Just for this season, it's just continue to fight, continue to grow. Continue to show great sportsmanship to other teams. And hopefully before the end of the year, hopefully we wind up with a win for the 16U. The 14U has won a few games. And before I go, I want to, kind of give a shout out to my girls coach and the 14U coach, who's an assistant right now. Mark Sullivan and Mark Hollingsworth. They had been around basketball before. And one of them has played, and the other one's daughter played years ago. And I want to give them a shout out for helping me out and get through this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach, for joining us for sure.
All right, thank you, Trellis. Have a good evening.
Yep, you too. And so now, last interview we have is head coach of the Meridian Flyers. So the Meridian Flyers last year, the past 6 years, they had Coach Mike Raspberry as head coach of their squad. Now they've got a new coach. It's Coach Lewis Coker, and he joins us right now. And Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Trellis.
Absolutely, Coach. So this is your first season as the head coach of the Meridian Flyers. I know you did some helping in the past. You picked up for Coach Mike Raspberry, who had a very successful 6-year tenure with the Flyers, bringing the Flyers into, a couple years ago, like one of the favorites to win the championship, just 2 years ago. But then now he's not there anymore. You're taking over as head coach. You got some talented players on the team, but you got a very young team. So just kind of speak to your role in picking up this boys basketball program.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I believe everybody can agree with me. There's only one Coach Mike Raspberry. I do miss him a lot of days when we're out there. He always had a lot of wisdom or things to say. But yeah, just taking over the role. I mean, it's I think like Chris said a few moments ago, it's been kind of an adventure. It's been extremely fun. Really enjoyed I've heard people say I inherited last year's team and players weren't disciplined or they weren't this, and I had to build from scratch. But we got an outstanding group of kids, and I really grown to love every one of them. Enjoy being part of the program. And Sean Stewart as well. He and I both. This is kind of our first year. He's helping me coach, and we kind of have a really a lot of the same background. Played basketball years ago, and kind of hadn't been involved too much other than like church ball up until this point, and our kids got old enough to play. So it's just been a fun ride so far, just hope we can continue to head in a positive direction.
So I know this season you would definitely consider this to be a rebuilding year for you guys, but in 16U, you guys have been competitive with multiple teams, including some of the teams that are some of the top teams in the league. Like take PCA, for instance, dropping that one 28-21. That's a close game right there against PCA. And now your team is led by two players who play at the 16U level as well, with Cooper Franklin, Brody Coker, which is your son. Just kind of talk about, how do you feel you guys have developed so far this season? We're kind of at the halfway point.
I think they're developing well. Like you said earlier, we are a young group. We do have a couple of seniors, but beyond them, we're essentially a 15U age, if you want to look at it that way, and down. And I've told our guys, and they do, a lot of our guys, they'll lean on Brody and Cooper a lot. And I've told them, I said, man, I want to equal out the scoring cards. I don't want to depend on just 2 or 3 guys, to do it all. I'd love for, I tell them all the time, if we can get 10 of y'all to score 8 points, we've got 80 points, so. But we're still kind of, working on getting that, the floor general, as I heard Chris say earlier, and I've heard that term mentioned before, and just, hopefully develop some of the older guys into leaders. As our seniors leave, we'll need somebody to step in that role, pretty quick. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I know that you probably have a target on a certain thing for an end goal for this season, because just like for 16, you've been very competitive in that 16U field. And then the 18U has been a little bit of a struggle, but a lot of times you're playing about the same guys mostly for both games there. So just kind of talk about, what would you say as head coach of the Meridian Flyers, the end goal for this year's team?
Just to keep heading in the direction we're headed. I know we've had some tough losses as of late. It seems like the last couple of weeks have been really tough playing you guys and PCA and Hattiesburg. It's just been some real tough teams, a lot of talent on all the teams out there. So, I just, hope we can kind of correct some of our, the simple things that we kind of do to ourselves, passing, boxing out, just all the things that coaches have been hollering for since, years and years ago, I suppose it was the same things I'm yelling at these guys. I was yelled the same things when I was playing. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I just hope we keep heading in the right direction, keep correcting the little things. And I think we've got a bright future and to be very competitive down the road.
Absolutely. And Coach, we appreciate you joining us right here on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show.
All right. Well, thank you a bunch for having me, Trellis, and thank you for all you do for this show too, man.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for sure. So that's Coach Coker, everybody. And that will wrap up our show. We appreciate all of you joining us. And again, I want to remind you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button to the TSJW Network YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button right now. And so that will wrap up our show this week. So tomorrow night, we will be bringing you MSAHA primetime coverage of the Hattiesburg Forerunners and the Laurel Nighthawks. It will be in Hattiesburg. Be live from First Presbyterian Church. And it'll be some big games, especially there at the 18U level, 18U girls and 18U boys. And folks, we appreciate you joining us. We appreciate all three of our guests on the show, Megan Robinson, Chris Jones, Coach Chris Jones, and Coach Lewis Coker, as well as, of course, our contributor, Charlie Cotton. I also appreciate Michael Williams doing the graphics and doing the background for us on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. This is the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. I'm Trellis Williams. We out.